Welcome to the Build Business Acumen podcast, where we deliver practical knowledge and powerful guidance. Here is your futuristic host, Nathaniel Skula.
Recording this episode marks the beginning of when I really started to understand my personal brand. And since then, I've managed to record multiple different podcast shows. I have worked with some of the best people in the world. I've interviewed Stanley Tucci. I was approached by the world's largest ebook publishing firm, all thanks to launching a podcast show. And today's guest, Ian Moyes, he was very patient with me. He gives me the odd nudge from time to time to remind me that I still have 25 minutes of time that we spent together, which would be valuable for him and his business. So since then, he, I believe, has changed jobs, and now he is still within the technology space. But if you want information on him, his contact details are around. And if you would like some more information on personal branding, you can grab my book from brandinggrader.com, and that's free. I'm going to launch that on Amazon. It covers the whole process that I've used to build my personal brand, and it explains a bit more about my story. But welcome back to Build Business Acumen. We're going to be relaunching the show in the new year. This is just an episode that is long overdue, and I wanted to update all of our subscribers just to say thank you for being patient with us. The pandemic was a little crazy, and I went on a mad tangent in recording 100 interviews for the world's largest ebook publishing firm, which is now paying off. So I want to thank you, and we're going to dig into some great personal branding insights. Appreciate you tuning in. Cheers. So today I've got Ian Moyes on the podcast show, and I've noticed him actually explode his personal brand, and I've actually wanted to sort of talk to him for a long time. But you know, in life, some things don't happen until the right time, and right now is the perfect time because he's actually just got a new job and he's building building quite an exciting business, really. And I'm going to let him introduce himself and explain what he does. Go for it, Ian. Over to you.
Thank you. Very flattering. I've just joined a new role, cloud telephony, which we're disrupting that sector as well as disrupting telephony itself. In simple terms, not to be a pitch, we've taken the whole telephony piece and made it simple, so you don't have to put it in your hands of your technical people, where often it's the hot potato. We've cloudified the whole thing, end to end, everything you need, and we've also put it inside Salesforce. So simple as a business, you can manage your whole telephony with your Salesforce administrator doing it, not needing your technical infrastructure guys running around, not having all the complexity that world has brought to you in the past. We've made it more powerful, easier, flexible, and taken what cloud allows you to do in a lot of technology areas, and really turned the game on its head. So exciting times, and I'm working with my team now to help them on the personal branding and social selling and all the pieces that help us in the business.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely fantastic. I mean, I've noticed you over the years. I mean, I'm relatively new to marketing and actually technology sales in itself, but I've sort of noticed you for the past few years, and I know I read something about your personal brand recently and how you'd I think it was about your personal brand. It was certainly about how you'd actually changed jobs, and I know that your personal brand has a lot to do with that, right?
Yeah. Well, I interview a lot of people, and I also sit on the judging panel and have done at the Institute of Sales and Marketing and Women in Sales Awards. So I have privilege to get to meet a lot of different sales people at different stages of their career, from inside sales, telemarketing, field sales, enterprise, etc. And it's always interesting judging salespeople in those environments, because for me, when you're going to get a job, your brand, you may not call it that, but what you portray is part of what they're buying into, and then how you behave as a salesperson. And what I've seen is interesting. I've had this viewpoint of a lot of salespeople are lacking in a lot of areas, and it comes out in interviews, because when you're trying to get a job, that should be where a salesperson's skills all come into play, because it's about prospecting, it's about qualifying. What are they looking for? Who am I going to meet? What's the company? Understanding that, and then portraying yourself as the best solution to that problem for that role. And I see salespeople fall foul of this again and again. They haven't prepared, their personal brand. I always look at their LinkedIn. Yeah. First thing I always do, look at LinkedIn, compare it to the CV, and where there's disparity there, because you could argue you shouldn't have a CV anymore. It should be all electronic, right? But there's disparity between the two. So there's a question. Yeah. Can't even keep the two in sync. And then I look at how do they portray themselves? Is the picture of them out drunk on a Friday night, which, go and do, right? And I'm sure we'll enjoy a beer together if we work together. But don't portray it neutrally, because that's your first impression. Yeah. And in sales, in an interview scenario, you're selling yourself. Yep. The product you know better than anyone on the planet. And you should know first impressions count, right? We've all been taught firm handshake and everything about that, and look at an appropriate and smart and dress for the job, all this stuff. And yet, electronically, that is now your first impression. Before I get to meet you, I'm already meeting you in a way. I'm meeting you digitally. I'm checking you out. Yeah. How do you portray yourself? Have you just got a single job line, or do you sell yourself? Do you show how you're different? Mm-hmm. Are you demonstrating the value to me in spending time with you? Yeah. And people are falling foul of this left, right, and centre. I would say there's a very few get this whole personal brand thing because they think it's a marketing thing, or it's egocentric, or they don't realise it's fundamental today.
Yeah, completely. Without personal brand, people they're not gonna fulfil their potential, and the problem that I see, certainly in because I've been in marketing for a few years now.
Sure.
I'm kind of broadening my audience, so this applies to everybody who's actually selling a technical product, yeah. And the problem that they use is they don't realise that the people who are actually at the top of many businesses, if they're going for a high level job, they don't give a monkeys about technology. They don't even know what the words mean, a lot of the time. And this is something that one of my associates actually helped me to realise, and that's why, one of my sort of selling points is I don't actually use techno speak and meaningless jargon,
Sure.
And as well as I do that people in technology sales, the problem that I face is even people in marketing, if you ask them what they actually do for a living, they don't explain it in one sentence. They don't. You need to be a brain surgeon or a technical business analyst or a techie to understand what on earth they're talking about.
Yeah. Keep it simple principle, right? I think regardless of the technology sector, we expect people to have this understanding of personal brand because you're in technology. But across any sector, you've got to think, people are going to look at you and make a judgment on you. Now, that judgment may be totally wrong. But whatever they see about you online that they can visibly see is going to be a first impression. And this is the old, I remember years ago, to give it a weird analogy, going to a film festival in Manchester for horror films, an all-nighter, all these premieres, etc., and getting there with a friend, and outside were all the bikers. A lot of the people going to this gig were we were slightly overdressed for this, but you normally think, oh my God, there's going to be a fight here. Do we feel safe here? Because of first impression, it's not our normal crowd to hang with. They were the loveliest people. We had a great laugh all night. But you take the first impression, as people often do wrongly, in leathers, tattoos, etc., and whatever it be, because they're different. Yeah. But it's first impressions. What I'm trying to get across is first impressions do matter. So on social, have a look at how you look. If you've got your Facebook with lots of pictures of drunkenness, make it private to you and your friends. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. But too many people are sharing too much with the world of the wrong type of information and thinking, well, it's wrong of them to judge me in that way. That's absolutely an opinion you can have, but you don't know the impact it's having. Did you not get that interview because they saw something and they made a flippant judgment, which, yes, may be wrong, but the judgment's been made. You'll never know why, but you're not in that interview seat. for example. The same as if you're visiting customers. Think about people will search your name. It's a natural thing these days. It takes 2 seconds. You know, Google's a wonderful thing. We all look for stuff. We all spot stuff. Recruiters are doing it. More for you.
Everybody's doing it.
If you get caught with it.
Yeah, but if you even want to get a date these days, the woman searches for you on Google and looks you up, and you know it's a shocking world. I mean, even if you're trying to find a rental property, they Google you, to make sure you are who you are and everything else. But it's
exactly
the problem is that actually you know as well as I do that to put your personal brand wording together, is the first step, and you have all these social media influencers, social media marketers, and they talk about socials, everything, and blah blah blah. But actually, without the core essence of the wording, it doesn't mean anything. You're just amplifying a sack of, whatever, and this is something that I learned. I mean, I worked with a brand marketer. He's been brand marketing for 20 years. He rolled out the brand strategy for Patronus.
Okay.
And he's one of my associates, and we work very, very closely with him. And he's the one that actually helped me to learn about how to actually do the personal branding process. And it's completely individual for everybody because everyone's understanding of it is different, right? I mean, I'm helping someone at the moment who is actually he's actually a salesman. He's been in sales for sort of 22 years. Very soft sales kind of approach.
Sure.
In fact, consultative selling completely to the point of actually sending people to his competitor because the product he was selling wasn't the right fit for them, and then them going to actually introduce him to their friends who bought 5 or 10 different ones of the product he was selling, which is interesting. And it's unbelievable. So we're going through that whole process, and once it's finished, it will be really quite exciting to see sort of how that particular personal brand works, But I mean, I think it's not an easy process. People think they can do it overnight. They think that a CV is a personal brand. A CV is not a personal brand. It's not the core of your LinkedIn profile. Your personal brand wording comes before everything. And as far as I can see, it's why you're different. First things first is what do you do? What function do you fulfill that people can actually understand in plain English without having to ask someone who's in that industry? Second thing is what words do you want people to think about when you leave the room? So then there's another couple of things which, what's your authority? Where do you get your authority from and your credibility? And then why are you different? So there's a few elements there. But
I'd add into that also make it, and this is something where I adjusted my own profile. I'm reading up on this, and show your personality. Right, you're a person. Don't just put facts. So I put the story on there of how I got. I'm in cloud computing. I've been computing for years, and I just put the story. Do you know what? How would I describe it? And someone said, describe it to someone as though it's a friend. And they just say, how'd you get into this? And what would you say? Right, now think it, because I described how I was 14, a neighbour moved in, had an old ZX81, and and it's an oh, really? That gives it colour. You're a person, as opposed to being in computing for X years. It's just a slight slant on it. It says, hey, this is a real genuine person.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, authenticity has to be.
That's a good word.
It's completely crucial to the entire process. I mean, that's why I invited you to come on a podcast. Because I've been watching you, and I didn't when I just got you on there, I was like, well, I actually know that you're authentic before I even speak to you, and that's what it's so crucial. Because at the end of the day, right, if you dress up who the hell you are to people, right? And then when they finally meet you or talk to you, and in fact, you don't support Arsenal, you support Man United or you like rugby versus MMA or whatever. It doesn't matter. But if they've bought into someone and then you meet them and they dislike you immediately, they're going to be like, well, what the hell was that personal brand? So,
and I talk about that when we talk about social selling, right? It's about You use the word, it's authentic.
Yeah.
So, for example, without social selling is a whole massive subject, but in 30 seconds, if you're going to engage with someone and they're posting loads of stuff about archaeology, don't start commenting and trying to engage if that is not something you are genuinely passionate in. If it is, fantastic, you've got a connection together.
Yeah.
But don't fake it, because it's going to come back on you at some point.
Yeah.
Because as you describe, you progress things, and they go, that's not who you really are.
Yeah.
So be genuine about it.
Yeah.
Find a reason to connect that is a genuine reason.
Mm-hmm. I agree completely. I mean, I've got a lot of friends in the business community. Some have got huge businesses, some haven't. But some of them, they actually don't want a personal brand. They've chosen to not have a personal brand because they've got a business. They don't really need one right now because they're making a ton of money. Yeah. And one of the guys, he's so smart. Okay, he can fly helicopters, he can sail, he's got every single toy. He's been through there, and learned how to do it, and got a pilot's license, whatever, And he said to me, he's not going to even talk about something unless he knows about it. And that actually, it goes back to what we're saying. It's like, if you're moving into something new, don't be afraid to actually say, I'm moving into something new. I mean, I was quite into like learning about artificial intelligence and big data and recommender systems and all these geeky things that no one really probably knows what on earth I'm talking about, any normal people. And I just said, well, I'm learning about this, and I tried to learn about it, but actually found it so boring, some of the stuff, that I just said, well, do you know what? I've actually delved into enough of this that I know what it does. Yeah, I'm not a technical guy. I'm a guy that sort of says, what does it do on a business level, and how does it work for business, and how does it work for people? And then I explain that to other people, so then they can use it. But it mystifies me. Whilst these people talk about social selling, and they talk about social media, right, and marketing, and actually they don't even understand the fundamental parts of a brand, and marketing itself,
that's where it starts, right? Social selling, and I work with Digital Leadership Associates, a company specialising in this, and we're all grouped together as experts around this.
Who's involved with that?
So, the lead guy that most people know is Tim Hughes.
Oh, lovely! Yeah, I like.
He wrote the book on social selling that's becoming the Bible. So, and the first thing we talk to people about is if you're going to do this, is your brand. You've got to have your profile, your photo, as you described, the description, all of that stuff's got. That's the first step, because if you haven't got that, the next bit is going to fail.
Of course,
because people are going to look at, well, who's this commenting?
Yeah.
And the first impression counts. Boom. If they then see really credible person, hey, interesting. Yeah. They may follow you back. They may start engaging, and that's what it's all about, right? It's a slowly approach.
Yep.
But to earn the right to engage, it's about finding people, listening to a little bit what they're doing, sharing, maybe creating your own content, connecting, and then engaging. It's a methodology. It isn't.
Of course.
Social selling is LinkedIn, which some people think, it's not a tool. The tools help you enable it, but it is a methodology.
Yeah. But you can't actually do any of that. You can't actually do a picture. You can't do LinkedIn. You can't do anything without the core wording. And that could take you 30 hours of work to create if you did it properly. And
my view is you have to keep honing it. I still, of course, I see what other people have done, right, and I plagiarise. Go, actually, I like the way they did that. Let me go back and edit. Let me go back and change. So it's a constant improvement. If you look to I really wish I'd taken snapshots of my profile once a year. Too late now.
I agree.
Compare and go, oh my. I couldn't believe I used to have it like that. Because you learn more, you mature, you see other people do things, and it's about constant refresh. And again, lots of people don't do that. I've done it, it's set, that's it for the next 10 years. But you've done new things and you've learned things.
I think it depends. It actually depends on what you're trying to achieve, obviously, and it also depends on how much time you've actually put into it in the first place. I mean, I did my personal brand around 2.5 years ago with Douglas, and like I said, he's I didn't actually say, but he's worked within brand brand marketing, strategic brand marketing, for over 20 years. Yeah. And that's one of the things that he's done, but that's the fundamental part of it. And, you know, a lot of people don't really actually understand it, and they don't understand how to do the wording. And the problem is that they just copy other people, and they say, oh, well, I like the way he said that, I'm going to just copy that. And actually, I don't believe you need to do that. I think you can tweak your brand every 2 years, every 3 years. Yeah. And I don't personally think you need to do it all the time. I actually recently thought, well, I'm going to, because I won the LinkedIn Power Profile Award a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I got one of those as well. Okay. There you go.
Cool. So I got one of those, and I thought, well, actually, I'm not telling anyone about that because I just didn't really see the monumental size of it at the time. I didn't realise that Richard Branson was like one of the people that won it the same year. What was it, 2015, that I got it?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, so I wasn't there, I'm afraid, but I won that as well. And I didn't realise how monumental that actually was. So I thought, well, I'll put that on my LinkedIn profile. But I'm in the process of actually revamping my personal brand, and I will do that in the next sort of probably 6 months. I don't need to do it right now because I've got sales leads that are coming out of my armpits. So you know, as far as I'm concerned, my brand is at a point where it's good enough to say, you know, I'm an IBM futurist, and I've achieved that. I've achieved getting invited into the futurist community by building my personal brand. And they invited me to be part of a community of 80 people, it is now, who are all thought leaders within the world of marketing.
Cool.
And that was achieved by doing the personal branding.
But it's worth it, right? Because
of course it is. You could earn £500,000 in your life, more than you'd ever dream of earning.
So one of the things I've learned from this, which I didn't set out to, wasn't an outcome or an objective I had, but is, and the phrase I always, when I teach people on this or social selling, is I talk about the one thing begats another. And what I mean by that is, you can't say, well, I want to achieve A. This is exactly what I want to do. I'm doing it because I want to get that. Do it because it will create opportunity for you. So to give you context, in the last week or so, I've had 3 inbound inquiries, because I do paid presenting as well sometimes, and I do consulting and gigs, etc. But I've had 3 requirements for 2 from major brand vendors, global vendors, from 2 separate sources, weirdly enough, in 2 countries, totally independently, I've checked, to can you help us contribute to blogs and content, do paid blogging and articles, and another one for one of the major sales organizations globally, can you do the same for us and produce content? Now, some of them you get paid for if it's a lot of work, if it's something else and you've got some material, maybe not. But what I found is, well, where do they come from? Oh, we spotted you on this list here, and therefore, because you're on that list and we saw this, we thought you'd be good to contribute content. I've had others who've said, well, because we saw this and we saw that, we linked to this and we spotted you because we saw this you did. Mm-hmm. But guess what? They check your profile out.
Of course they do.
But they're seeing, because I've done a profile, then got perhaps a high clout score on social, which put me on a list that I didn't even know I was on.
Yep.
And someone spotted it. They've then approached you back through your social profile. Mm-hmm. Because I've made it easy to find me and it looks good, to say, could you do this for us? I get a lot of inbound inquiries.
Yep.
I've presented at events where I haven't gone out to do anything. I've done nothing proactive as an individual. I'm not a company. I don't have a company brand, but it has generated me work. And then you do that, and then someone else sees you. So I've seen this thing where do the fundamentals right. And over time, one thing begats another and leads to this. And that's how I'm on these judging panels of awards, on this board, advisory boards and all this stuff. It's not because I went out there and went, here's a list of 20 things. How do I do it? And contacted them cold. They've come to me over the years. And the minute you get 1 or 2 of them rolling, it's like a snowball. Now you're on the board of this, or you're advising this. Guess what? You get spotted easier. So I've seen over the last 10 years, it's got easier and easier and easier to, I'm just getting approached for stuff and turning stuff down.
I actually get approached to write blogs, and unless they're paid, I don't do it. Yeah. I get paid to write on the IBM Think Marketing, and for me that's actually enough right now because I don't have time. Yeah, and the podcast show is growing. I interviewed Michael Tobin, OBE, a couple of weeks back. Lots of huge people on here, and it's really exciting to have you on the show. And
thank you.
How do people get hold of you if they need some assistance with whatever the telephony that you're
Yeah. So easiest two ways, and I'm going to say www out of habit, I just realised, but ianmoyse.co.uk and ianmoyse.cloud will take you straight to my social profiles.
Great.
And you can contact me through those. And I've put my own domains on them. There's an easy example of branding because it costs nothing. It costs probably $20 a year, and straight away that little thing. If you look at 100 LinkedIn profiles, I can't remember that to tell you the LinkedIn profile now. You just asked me, could I describe it? No, but go to ianmoyse.co.uk and you'll go straight to my LinkedIn profile.
Totally.
Make it easy for your audience.
It's the best investment, a personalised domain. Best investment ever.
I agree.
Thanks so much for listening. Please subscribe, and wherever you prefer, share with your friends. And if you enjoyed the show, drop us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen.